Now, give me your takeaways from the series against Boston. I mean, I must say, all things considered, making the playoffs had to be huge for the Orlando Magic, but it was now for the second year in a row being in the playoffs, in my opinion, that this was a learning experience for the team. But how did you see it as the Orlando Magic unfortunately lost in 5 games to the defending champs?
Yeah, I think we always envisioned that the Magic would face a team like the Celtics in the playoffs. I think before the season we would have all betted that would be in the second round. And so ultimately I think this was, regardless of when it happened, this was the kind of series the Magic needed to go through. They needed to kind of feel what it's like to go up against a team that's competing for a championship, that is a champion. They said this a lot, that, they began to understand like what a champion's level of focus and intensity is. And I think they came away from the series saying, our defense can hold its own against an elite offensive team and against a championship level team. But, as the playoffs always do, they expose your flaws. They show you what all your weaknesses are. And just frankly, the offense was not good enough. The shooting was not good enough. The creation was not good enough. They just weren't able to score enough points to take advantage of their biggest strength. And I think that is one of the reasons why we heard, a little bit more urgency and a little bit more kind of fire from management, from coaches about what they want to do this offseason. So I think the Magic learned a lot about themselves, learned a lot about their process, and learned a lot about what they needed. So in a lot of ways, it was very good for them to get that experience.
What did you take away from Jeff Weltman's exit interview?
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've really heard him outwardly say they're going to be aggressive, that they're going to really attack their needs, and that's quite simply that what they did this season wasn't good enough. They said, I think he said on several occasions, we acquitted ourselves well in the playoffs. We were good, but clearly not good enough. And so I think there is, I think the biggest thing that he said was we're entering a new phase in this Orlando Magic rebuild, or in this Orlando Magic, in this Orlando Magic growth period. It's very, very clear the Magic are going to take a different tack to how they attack this offseason. And obviously that sets expectations for what they're going to do and the kind of team they're going to be next season.
Continuing our conversation with Philip Rossman Reich. He's the senior writer at Orlando Magic Daily, also the host of Locked on Magic. So you're the doctor here for the Orlando Magic. And this offseason, for me, I feel is a critical one for the squad. What would you prescribe that they go out and get over the summer for them to become a better team?
I think, as much as everyone wants to focus on the shooting, I think the biggest need is they need more guys who can create off the dribble. They just need more players who have an offensive brain. It feels like almost too many of their guys are defense first, and that's been really critical to setting the team's identity and setting the team's kind of the way that they want to play and what's made them successful over the last 2-3 seasons. But they need more guys who want to put the ball in the hole. Just quite simply, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner have to do so much. And I think Paolo had this incredible playoff series against that really good Boston defense. But by the time you got to the second half of Game 4, you could see him just get worn down. When Paolo picked up his fifth foul in the third quarter of Game 5, Franz Wagner carried the team for a little bit, but then you could see him get tired. And if you're going to go deep into the playoffs, you need to be able to give those guys a chance to rest, relax, to get some easy shots. Like, everything they did was so hard, and it's because they have to be the main creators. There's just no one else on the team that can create. So if I were the Magic, as much as they need shooting, I think the shooting problem gets fixed a little bit or is alleviated by having more guys who can attack the basket, who can attack off the dribble, and I think that's going to help this team a lot. So I would be focused on finding guys who can attack off the dribble and initiate offense and create offense a little bit easier for everyone else.
Now, are there any names that you have in mind? I mean, listen, we hear the pipe dreams of guys like Anthony Simons. We also hear about Trae Young. We also hear about LaMelo Ball, Cameron Johnson. Is that the ballpark in which they need to be gunning for in order to acquire talent like that? Or are there other names in which we are not considering that the Orlando Magic could go out and get as far as playmakers who can put the ball in the basket?
Yeah, there are a lot of names. I mean, it's kind of an open world for the Magic. I mean, unfortunately, they don't have the cap room to go out and sign anybody. It's going to be all about trades. So I don't think they'll be kind of fishing for the big fish. I think they feel like their marquee is pretty well set. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner are your main characters. Jalen Suggs might be on the lower tier of the marquee. I don't think they'll be chasing like a Trae Young or LaMelo Ball, but Anthony Simons is a very acquirable player. He's been someone that's been on Magic fans' radar for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
He's got a relatively manageable salary for them. I think they'll be chasing after guys like Colin Sexton, like Kobe White. I think Austin Reeves from the Lakers is definitely going to continue to be a target for the Magic.
Okay.
There are, a lot of players, and there's probably a lot that we're not even thinking of quite yet that we don't even believe are available that the Magic could chase. But I think they'll be looking to add. I think they'll certainly be looking to add someone of those calibers to their roster.
Philip Rossman Reich joining us here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM talking about the Orlando Magic. He is the host of Locked On Magic as well as the senior writer for Orlando Magic Daily. So how far away do you feel the Orlando Magic are from making, say, the Eastern Conference Finals? Because David Aldridge, he had come out with an article before the season started thinking that they were going to make the Eastern Conference Finals this year, and many things got in the way. And I don't know if the team, in my opinion, is that far off from being a top 3-4 team in the conference like they were a couple years ago and taking teams like Cleveland or New York to the brink and making it to a conference final. Or for you, Philip, am I thinking too far ahead and there's just some steps that the Magic still need to take before they get there?
There's definitely steps the Magic need to take to get into the title contending tier, and I think that's just a fact. I mean, I think anyone who watches this team can see that. They're second in the league in defensive rating, but still 27th in the league in offensive rating. They just don't score enough, and especially in the playoffs when it just becomes about will in a lot of ways. Your ability to put the ball in the basket is just so important. But I also think you're not wrong. The Magic are not far away. I think. Joe Mazzulla from the Boston Celtics coach said this before game one of the series. The Orlando Magic are not the 7th seed. Like, this team is far too good to be the 7th seed, and he was warning his team before that series that they were in for a battle. And it might be a quick battle because of the Magic's deficiencies, but they were in for a battle. If the Magic were healthy this season, if they had Jalen Suggs, even for the playoffs, that's a longer series. If they had Mo Wagner for the playoffs, that's a longer series. If Paolo Banchero doesn't miss 6 weeks or 8 weeks, if Franz Wagner doesn't miss 6 weeks, the Magic are probably fighting for the 4th seed. They entered the season with their goal being to get home court advantage to win a playoff series. That was their goal at the start of the season. And I think that, whether they would have achieved that goal or not, some of that's up to chance, whether you win close games or not or anything like that. But they would have been in the competition with Indiana, Milwaukee, Detroit. You can't convince me that a healthy Orlando Magic team isn't in that conversation, if not better than some of those teams. Indiana's obviously proven itself to be a very, very good team. Milwaukee still got Giannis. Detroit had an amazing season. I'm not taking anything away from them. But Orlando left a lot on the board. And I think as Jeff Weltman and the Magic management evaluate the season, they're going to see that. They're going to say, injuries are why we didn't accomplish these baseline goals. But they also can't hide from the fact that they're not on Boston's level. They're not on Cleveland's level. They may not even be on New York's level. And so that's the reason why the Magic have to attack this offseason aggressively, because ultimately they want to be on that level. And they can get there very, very quickly with the right move, with the right injury luck, with the right kind of health. They can get there very, very quickly next year. So I don't think the Magic are in panic mode or anything like that, but they know there's work to do.
Final couple of moments with Philip Rossman Reich, the senior writer of Orlando Magic Daily, joining us here on Open Gym. Paolo Banchero, you heard at the top, he says he loves Orlando, wants to be here, and that has to be music to your ears and Orlando Magic fans' ears in Central Florida as well as here in Northeast Florida. What did you think of his exit interview, and what do you think is the next step in his development as he continues just to become a dominant player in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think Paolo said a lot of the right things. Like, I think there's just an acknowledgement of how frustrating this season was, just from injuries and things that were out of their control. But I think there's also an understanding that they still accomplished a lot. I know it doesn't feel like that losing in 5 games, and I don't think anyone's satisfied or happy with losing in 5 games, but I think they're still really satisfied with how they stuck together, how they came together, finished the season strong, made sure they got that playoff spot, made sure they won the division, won the play-in game. I think there's a lot that they're very, very happy with under the circumstances, but then understanding that this isn't where they want to be. I think Paolo Banchero has big ambitions for what his place in the league is and what this team can do and what this team can do with him, obviously, as the anchor player. So, I think Paolo understands he's got to get more consistent. His jumper's got to be more consistent. His decision-making's got to be more consistent. I think he saw, what he looked like at the beginning of the season especially, and how good he was before his oblique injury and how once he kind of found his rhythm after the All-Star break, how good he could be how good he could be and how much he can dominate these games. So really for him, I think it's just about continuing to find consistency, continuing to gain comfort, and, continuing to just, keep putting himself in the best shape of his life so that he can lead this team and carry the weight of being the superstar on this team. I don't think it's crazy to think that Paolo Banchero will be an MVP candidate very soon and certainly an All-NBA candidate next year.